It's time for Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast from the Spacebook for the Fandom Podcast Network. Here we monitor the matrix of all that's ever happened or ever will across the Whoniverse, on and off screen. And I am Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, designated driver of your free-speaking, big-thinking show. All those incarnations of the Time Lord over 6 decades now. Whenever, wherever and however you started your journey with whichever Doctor, you'll get something out of each and every trip with Type 40. And welcome aboard for this informally formal special occasion. Time to roll out the red carpet, best bib and tucker, and open a fresh packet of Jelly Babies too. Why not? To look at this very special event that happened early in November 2025, where not before time, our Lord of all Time Lords, Tom Baker, regenerated again into Tom Baker MBE. The veteran character actor raised in Liverpool in England is still seen as the Doctor by so many all over the world, nearly 45 years since vacating the part originally on the telly. He's never been an easy character to pin down, has he, Tom Baker? Is it part of the act? Who knows? Part of the magic? Absolutely. It's not just Doctor Who fans who adore him either. The press, the general public, they love him too, even if it's just the sound of his voice from countless other projects. Little Britain, Blackadder 2, The Chronicles of Narnia. So it probably is long overdue that he be given some sort of formal gratitude, love and decoration on all our behalves from the Crown. It all happened at a beautiful historic location. Tom was surrounded by friends and colleagues. And our guest this time, he was there, not just as a good friend of Tom's, but as a photographer too. We're going to meet Oliver McNeil, be treated to an account of the day itself and his own friendship with Tom, and hear about their various other creative collaborations. Ooh, that's after I remind you, if you fancy doing some real-life time traveling of your own. Each and every edition of this show, past, present and future, is only a tap or two away on the device of your choice if you know exactly where to look. 150 plus other podcasts, a proper back and forth catalogue of reviews, previews, interviews, geekouts and deep dives with all our regular panelists and lots of awesome guests, something for every fan over at type40.podbean.com. More about that a little later. And of course, we'll be making time to plug our sister and brother, cousins, and other podcasts across the fabulous Fandom Podcast Network too. Okay, so mind your P's and Q's, straighten the tie, or adjust your hem as applicable. We're going inside the big man's latest big day with our guest, Oliver McNeil, now. Every year in Britain, the Crown and the government in tandem recognise prominent cultural and political figures, and unsung heroes too, with the awarding of one of a number of titles. An MBE, or Member of the British Empire, that recognises an individual person for their exceptional work or contributions to the community, usually over an extended period of time and with significant impact on not just the UK, but sometimes the world. Early in 2025, someone we consider Doctor Who's own royalty, really, the actor Tom Baker, was awarded the MBE for services to television. And in mid-November, Tom, who celebrates his 92nd birthday in January, headed to an historic location for the formal investiture. And happily for Doctor Who fans, select images from that occasion have made their way onto social media platforms over recent days. How brilliant. Oliver McNeil, he was there, and he's here with me, with us, right now. Oliver, welcome to Type 40.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, I've been and investigated a little. I've gone and looked you up, and you are listed as an actor yourself, a designer, a wizard. I'll ask you about that later.
Yes.
And all these other things. None of them seem to be pointing me in the right direction for this precise occasion about where you could have possibly have come in. So I understand you are responsible, though, for the images that are filling up social media right now. What was your part in all of that and all of this?
Well, it's a long story that goes back about 15 years. But previously, I used to run a fantasy photography studio down in Hastings in the Old Town in East Sussex. And my specialty was building sets of various forests and rocks and wizards' towers, actually inside, so practical sets. And one of Tom's friends had their children photographed with me. And they contacted me afterwards and asked me whether I'd be interested in doing some photographs for a calendar that was going to be produced. And of course went, yes, because he's my doctor. And unbeknownst to Sue and Tom, I actually had built a full-size TARDIS inside my studio the previous year. So,
okay,
I had a huge sort of love for
on
Doctor
the off
Who,
chance.
Before. Well, it was either that or spend £500 on advertising. I thought if I build a TARDIS, I'll get enough free press and enough interested people coming in just to see that. And it is one I actually could take apart and put outside within about 15 minutes. So it was all constructed in that way. My background is prop making and scenic art and theatre. So it's something that I really wanted to kind of do to kind of get a little bit of attention to the studio. And like it worked, but I don't believe Sue and Tom were actually aware of it whatsoever. It's just a happy accident that they contacted me afterwards and said, can you take some photographs? And of course, I jumped at the chance.
There are images of you with Tom Baker at the investiture itself. So it happened at a historic location, didn't it? Where was the event itself?
It's a place called Hull Park, which is in Kent, and it's a private house, but the gardens are open to the public. Quite often, they do various weddings and fairs there. And they hired a little space. They got a TARDIS in. They had some prop makers. I can't remember where they're from, but they had a Dalek and they had K9, brilliant props, and they had a replica of Tom's costumes, the red one and the more classic, well-known outfit. So he put all those on, and Tom was in fantastic form. There weren't many guests there. I suppose there must be about 25 guests in total, and having known Tom for 15 years, I was invited along as a guest. And okay. I asked them, do you mind if I bring my camera along? They went, absolutely, please do. So I wasn't there as a photographer so much, but I was there obviously as my friend. And they obviously know that I do photography as well. So they said, yeah, absolutely. There's going to be lots of pictures taken. Feel free. And then the photograph, the result, actually the photograph you got up at the moment is not one of mine, but you can see me take a photograph of Tom. I have a certain way of taking pictures of Tom because we've got a good repertoire between us. So I kind of know what images that Tom and Sue would like and what he's happy with and how I know how to get them as well. Because I've been there as his official photographer for 15 years. So I've done a lot of shoots with them. I know them very well. And I used to go around to his house a lot as well. So, I'm a photographer, but I have become a friend over time. So I was invited, there's no, can you bring a camera? I just asked after the fact, do you mind if I bring one?
So it was an intimate audience of around 20 people. Did you say were the press invited too? Or did you get free reign?
Doctor Who magazine with that, and I think I was the only other photographer. So people had their own personal cameras, but obviously I've got the kit to maybe take slightly more interesting photographs. and
because I was thinking about the investitures that are commonplace with these honours, whether it's the New Year's honours or the King's birthday honours, and sometimes you see pictures of them, and more commonly though you don't. And I wondered, how long were you given to take photographs? What was the environment like? Because you would think it sounds quite stuffy and quite proper. And then the Doctor Who crowd turn up, and there's props, there's robot dogs, there's long, impossibly long scarves. Did you feel at all self-conscious of the fact of the occasion and the environment, or were you encouraged to really have fun and to reflect the subject, which in this case obviously was the great Tom Baker?
Well, everyone was having fun on the day. Tom was joyous, in buoyant mood, and the general atmosphere was, there's only a couple of cameras here, and they wanted to get certain shots to mark the day, and as well as being a portrait photographer, I've been an events photographer for many years as well, so I didn't go in with big cameras and flashes and various things like that because it wasn't appropriate. So I just had a very small, intimate camera. One you probably wouldn't even notice it is a professional camera, but it's got a short, it's got a crop sensor on it. So you can just bypass it quite easily. So I was taking them quite happily. Again, no flash, just asking Tom to do certain things. But Tom, once he's in the mood and he's posing, you don't have to do too much. He'll strike the pose. Once he's got the outfit on, he's there. He's doing his shushing, and he's doing his wide-eyed wonder, and he's being cheeky and various things like that. But you just have to time it. You have to know when he's going to be doing that kind of thing, and just have the time to just capture it.
I get the impression that the Tom Baker that we commonly see as the Doctor, as Doctor Who, absolutely seems to be a reflection of his personality, but only aspects of his personality. And quite rightly, there'll be other aspects of his personality which are private to him, for those close to him, for friends such as yourself and his family and things like that. You just instinctively know when you've gotten to know somebody as a subject, and particularly as a friend as well, when they're sort of drifting from in and out of one mode and another. Is that the same? Is that common with photography, generally speaking?
It is. I mean, because Tom's an actor, he knows how to turn it on. And if you stand in front of a TARDIS, he has no other way to act other than the Doctor. So if you sit him in his kitchen with a cup of tea, he's of course not going to be playing the Doctor, who's got very kind of different, more thoughtful, very chatty. He's interested in a lot of news articles and literature and Shakespeare, and he'll talk about all those things. But as soon as you obviously put him in the TARDIS and put K9 there, he's going to go, right, okay, I know what people want.
When the red light goes on, and that's the magic.
Exactly. You can see him spark into life. You see the character come out, and it's from the photographs you can see. But also you can also see from the photographs that I took last week, the joy in his eyes. He's just absolutely adoring the whole environment and seeing all his friends there. And be able to play and being thoroughly encouraged to play. So it is just when I shoot Tom, I don't have to do an awful lot. It's almost like you're setting the scene, you're placing the actor there, and you just let them get on with it. And then there's your job to anticipate what might happen and capture it when it does.
He does seem like a very playful man, despite being over 90 years of age now, and these images that we have seen so far from the event perfectly illustrate that. The energy that the man still seems to have, and the charisma and the warmth for the people who obviously, some of which he's known for decades now, or others that are close to him. But it's reassuring to know that he was at ease in that kind of environment and not self-conscious, because it is quite a big thing, isn't it? People in the Doctor Who world have been speaking for years about, why hasn't Tom Baker had a knighthood? Why hasn't he got this, been recognised for that? But the truth of the matter is that some people are approached, aren't they, privately about such matters, and they simply don't want that kind of attention, or they don't see any value in that kind of honour. And, so we never know. It's not really any of our business. But fans were delighted when this was announced earlier this year.
I've seen all the knighthood comments, and but the thing is, he's of a certain age now, so practically going up to Buckingham Palace and having all that, and there'll be a lot more press. It would be much more overwhelming. I think
more room to play.
He may well requested this.
How much access were you given as a photographer? Were there designated periods of time and locations around Hull Park,
yeah, it was actually pouring outside, so we just stayed in the room, the entirety of it. So the investiture actually took place at 12 o'clock. We arrived there about 11:30, and I think we all left about 3 o'clock. So maybe just before 3. So the actual investiture maybe took 10 minutes or so. So the
right.
I can lead you through what happened. So
Please do.
The Lady Colgrave, who gave him his MBE, walked up to the TARDIS where Tom was inside, knocked on the door. Tom opened it up quickly and then quickly closed it. I went, "Oh, hang on a minute," and then and then he opened it up again. "Oh, where am I? Oh, who are you?" And then they proceeded to ask him out. So, and Lady Colgrave loved it. It's probably one of the best investitures she's done for all year.
Really?
And then she pinned, there's a short reading about Tom and his career and why he's got it. And then it was presented to him. And then shortly afterward, the jelly babies were handed over to everyone's delight and Tom's delight as well. And then we went quickly into some photographs. And I was just shooting sort of quietly in the middle there. And then we had a couple of people with the costumes, so we put those on. But he was in them no longer than probably 5 minutes each costume. You've got to work very quickly with Tom. And it's a heavy outfit, for a 91-year-old to wear that coat and scarf. It's a trip hazard. We're going to have that on our conscience. So, so we got those quickly. And then after that, I said, "Tom, do you mind standing by the Dalek with the MBE?" So we got some shots of him there, which looked fantastic. And then someone said, "Oh, can we have one for John Leeson?" We had K9 there. So we had him... I've got a few of K9 on the ground, and then one of the people, I think from Doctor Who magazine, lifted him up. Let's lift him. So that's the extra hand you see in there. It's not AI. It is someone lifting him up. So we've got, and again, that was maybe 30 seconds of that. So I think that the thing that's worked well with Tom and I's relationship is I shoot quickly. I make it fun. Although there are other people there, I wasn't directing all the action. He knows to listen to my voice and trust, I suppose, my instincts. I'm going to capture the right things for them. Yeah, let's go 9.
Also, I suppose, when something is happening in a moment and has a certain feeling about it, and as you say, if the investiture itself only lasted a matter of 10, 12 minutes, you don't want to sort of over-labor that. You don't want to prolong it, make it seem like a chore. If it's fast, if it's energetic and fun, you want to capture that sort of immediacy, don't you?
That's it, absolutely. Yeah. I was shooting more of as a observer with light direction. A very different environment if I was in my studio with Tom. Entirely different. But as I said, I've been a wedding and events photographer for many years, so I was kind of in between the two skills with Tom. Some of those ones I've actually just taken on my Android phone, the one with Louis Jameson and the Dalek and K9.
That's another element of your judgment as well. Which kit to take? How much equipment can you potentially lay out? Because there may not be much floor space, or there may not be many sort of access points and things like that for people who may want to come in and out of a room.
I can show you the camera. The camera I took was a Lumix GH4, so that's the camera I've got. Can you see that? Okay, slightly battered old one, so that's all I took. So I was shooting it in RAW and manual, get the light levels right, and obviously when he stepped in the TARDIS, I was just trying to capture his face, and we kept saying, "Look, you've got to come to the edge, don't fall out," because there's quite a little drop there. And then once he's there, just make sure we see the MBE, all the bits. And then Tom was like, "Oh yes, I'll do this and I'll do this and do this." I take, I think I took about 250 images on the day, or the entirety, and that's including group photographs, which I'm not going to obviously share because they're private photographs, and also individuals jumping in and various other bits and pieces.
Would it be down to the subject or the client, the customer, whoever, to commonly, they would say if you take 200 odd images, they would then receive all of them and choose which would be either right for the job at hand or offered to the public, or in the case of Doctor Who, a fan base. How would that usually work, generally speaking,
Well,
as a photographer?
Normally you edit them down. So you edit them down to the ones that you think are your best images. So you can say we can select between these ones here. Because, although the client, they want to look their best, photographer's eyes sometimes sees things that the client can't see. Or they might go, actually, that's not great because you're halfway between a smile, or you've got a little bit of a half blink happening, or there's something happening which isn't there behind you that is distracting. Like you might have someone else who's pulling a face. Then you go, certain things you can edit, certain things you can't. But normally I'll edit it down to about, I think we ought to got it down to about 25 out of all those. And then of the ones with just Tom, there's obviously a lot more. But again, I got it down to about 2 or 3 of each costume change. And so I was lucky because one of the entire walls was all glass, and because it was an overcast day, I just had quite a nice light going across it, which kind of balanced with all the paintings behind Tom. You had all these lovely oil paintings or portraits, so I was trying to get a little bit of that reflected in Tom's images. Keeping it short, I mean, we knew that we had this chance to get Tom in the outfit. We had the outfit there, we had a TARDIS there. So, Tom was very willing to put it on. But again, it is a heavy outfit. The scarf, when he was wearing it during filming the actual TV show in the 70s and 80s, was a bit of a nightmare. That scarf, he tripped over it countless times. So I do remember a story that I as I told you, I studied theatre design, but I had a costume teacher who used to have to stretch out Tom's scarf, and they used to use one of the corridors in the BBC, and the costume ladies used to stretch it out between them until it reached a certain length. And I believe it was had to go down to his ankles either side and once around his neck in a kind of loose pattern. And if it wasn't long enough, they'd be out in the corridor stretching it.
Did anything go wrong during the investiture? Any funny story you can share?
Well, no, it all went very smoothly. I mean, I'm delighted to say that if something goes wrong at 91, you got a problem. No, but Tom's always cracking jokes, and it's I probably can't repeat half of them.
I think we're all fairly used to that. But usually anything that involves sort of props being held in midair, dangled, or pulled around, anything that can't be sort of bolted down, I think is usually, if not an accident waiting to happen, then a mishap that could occur at some point, which does seem to be part of the fun, even at formal engagements, I suppose, such as weddings and things.
Yeah, no, luckily none. I mean, it's just a joy being around Tom, and all his friends. They're all very lovely people. So
I think that what heartened Doctor Who fans the most was to see Louise Jameson there as well, who clearly seems very, very proud of her friend of 50 years standing there.
Yeah. Yeah, she was such a lovely lady as well. I haven't met her previously, so it was nice to see her. And I only got that photograph. I've got a couple of photographs. I've got her with Lady Colgrove and on her own with Tom. But I've only released 2, which I think is quite enough on there. I mean, it was Tom's day, so she wasn't there very much in the photographs because there's lots of people, agents and people from his family and various other friends.
Doctor Who fans, I think, were quite surprised that it had taken so long, so that it was awarded all the way back in the new year, and here we are in November, and that we have the presentation and investiture. Is that quite commonplace too?
Well, I haven't done an investiture before, and I think it is. I think certainly they have to schedule all the appointments, I'm not going to comment on the royal family and what's happening at the moment, but maybe it's been busy up there. I don't know. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it was trying to find the right venue for Tom, and just arranging everyone's friends and when it was available. I got the invitation about a month ago.
Tom Baker himself must be one of the most photographed men in Britain.
Yes.
Never mind in science fiction and Doctor Who from right the way back in 1974, which could account for how even at his age, he just knows instinctively what to do. But how long did you say you'd been taking pictures of Tom for? When did all of this start?
Well, 15 years ago. So the very first shoot I did, I was obviously quite nervous, but I had a certain idea of how to get him relaxed. So I had a tiny little studio. It's a converted sort of garage down the old town of Hastings. It's like a brick-built one. And I put a table in there, and I read that he'd been living in France, and he liked wine. So I poured a huge glass of red wine, set him all up, had some standing lights, so no flashes going on, and I had my camera on a tripod, and he arrived at 9 a.m, and he sat down. His wife said, "Okay, how long will it be?" I said, "Oh, maybe half an hour, 40 minutes," because again, I didn't know how long it was going to take, and I knew I had to capture it quickly, because I had also been told that Tom doesn't like his photograph being taken very much. So I had to break all those preconceptions from Tom right from the get-go, because I thought I've only got one chance to do this. So he sat down, had a sip of wine, played around with the glass. It was actually my christening glass, so it had a lovely kind of double helix spiral in the glass stem. So I thought that looked quite interesting. And then Tom and I just chatted, but that's probably from the first 5 minutes of me shooting Tom. And it's still one of my favourite photographs. You can see he's just having a ball. And I do remember at the time, it was just after Liz Sladen had died and Nick Courtney, because they died quite close to each other. And he had been asked whether he should do a big finish. And I know that David Tennant had just started doing them, and I was going, "Oh, they sound fantastic, Tom. I think you should definitely do them. I think it'd be a great organisation. They're very nice there, apparently." So, I don't know.
You could have been a key player.
Well, I said had no influence on them at all, but shortly afterwards he started doing them.
Millions of fans of Doctor Who and of Tom Baker himself. Were you a Doctor Who fan? Did you grow up watching Tom?
Absolutely, yes, of course. He was my doctor. So I was born in 72. So he started at 74 to 81, is that right? I've got those dates right. So that would have been my formative childhood years, just seeing Tom on the TV and being scared witless all throughout my childhood. I was absolutely with my pillow and hiding behind the settee, literally doing that. And seeing the master shrink people down. I was at the age where I believed everything I saw on TV. It wasn't a TV show. It was happening. He was a Time Lord. He was my alien hero. A little bit quirky, a little bit bizarre. And then I'd flip over the other side and see Worlds of Gummidge, and that would terrify me in other ways. So, but I didn't know that John Pertwee was a doctor, because that was before my time.
No, neither did I. We're of the same generation. To be a celebrity or a prominent personality and presence in British popular culture between the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s was a very different prospect to how it is now, isn't it? Because there was only 3 or 4 channels at the most, millions, often 10, 50 million people watching. And so some of these people, these actors, in some cases quite humble, simple people that came from humble and simple backgrounds, have all of this attention sort of foisted upon them. Sometimes they wouldn't have been expecting it either, because this was still, I wouldn't say it was the infancy of television, but I would say that people like Tom, who would have become actors in the sort of the late the late 50s, early 60s, certainly wouldn't necessarily be able to anticipate the kind of fame that television could catapult them to.
Yeah, I don't know how much Tom was watching Doctor Who. I suspect that he wasn't watching an awful lot because he was too busy enjoying his well, actually, I say he was doing building work, but he was acting as well at National Theatre, and you know, he had a very interesting life when he was sharing a flat with Anthony Hopkins, and he was doing all kinds of interesting gigs. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was certainly, he knows it changed his entire life, without that.
Because
that
his sort of progress through to the status of national treasure couldn't be more different from John Pertwee's. You mentioned Pertwee as Wurzel Gummidge there, one of several roles that people associate with Pertwee with. But Pertwee came from quite a privileged background, didn't he? He was in the Navy, then went straight into performing and radio, and famously, he sort of disappeared inside of those characters. So when it came to the point where he was offered Doctor Who, he had no idea really how to play it. The instinct to be himself, to fill out a character like that, simply wasn't there. But the flip side of that is someone like Tom Baker, who, as you say, had acted, but would balance that with working on building sites and doing whatever else he possibly could, and leading a bohemian life. I know it's the cliche, but it's true, a bohemian life, and sort of taking whatever, whenever. It's a totally different rite of passage, I suppose. And yet the end result is that both gentlemen found themselves on Saturday evenings growing not just the audience for the shows, but that sort of that wealth of affection for them personally too. I do wonder how much of a burden that could be on somebody who in their younger years would have simply have just wanted to act rather than to be a star. I think that's kind of a modern thing. Do you photograph other figures, either famous personalities, actors and actresses, or political figures? Have you got similar engagements with other people, or is that quite
well?
rare?
I did actually, yes. I had a similar arrangement with Paul Darrow, Blake 7 Avon.
Yeah.
And I did a series of photographs with him. He came to Hastings, and I dressed him up as Avon again, and he hadn't dressed up since the BBC it. So that was quite thrilling. And then I borrowed a prop gun from a shop down the road, and it turned out that it was built by the husband of one of the script writers from Blake 7. So it was a very strange circumstance. That actually led to myself producing co-producing a show at the Staples Theatre in Hastings with Tom and Paul Darrow, doing readings, which followed an interview with Tom. So that was fun. I also photograph a lot of magicians.
You do strike me, Oliver, as being a playful figure yourself, someone who's very resourceful, very creative. I mean, so where did photography come into it? Was that something you were keen on in your youth as well, or was that a relatively recent thing?
Well, relatively recent. I've been doing it for over 25 years now, so I suppose recent-ish. No, the way I approach my photography is the same way as I do my theatre productions, because that's what I do now. I actually do shows. So, I'm about creating the scene, put the lighting in there, and then getting whether they're famous or not, getting them to become someone else or someone they're not, or someone who they are, some aspect of that. And I think that's why, the actors like working with me, because I can create an interesting environment where they don't feel that they're posing for the camera.
Yeah,
they're taking on the role. When Paul came along, I decked out my room, my studio, as a space station. I had his costume hanging there. It's just me and him, and we just talked about Blake 7, and he loved it. He's like, "Oh, this is fantastic." So we produced this image saying Avon lives, and then he told me, actually, I'm writing a sequel. I'm writing a follow-up where Avon does live, and he carries on leading the rebellion and all these things. So it's, we just clicked. And I also read, the thing is, you got to read about, you got to know your client before they come in. So I knew with Paul, I knew he liked Westerns. So I got a replica gun and a cowboy hat, and we took them over to the castles, and we did some sort of cowboy shoots. And he said, I used to love John Wayne, and this is a dream. So you're letting them play, so, that's what I like. So yeah, I've certainly got an interesting career. I can tell you the magician I felt was Paul Daniels. I arranged that one. He was performing locally in I do go outside of Hastings. I live in Pembrokeshire now, but he was performing. He was getting to the kind of end of his career, and I knew the kind of shot I wanted. So I contacted the theatre. I said, I'd love to photograph Paul. Is that okay? I contacted Paul. I said, the theatre would love to get some images. Is that okay? And I would. So they both said yes. And I set up in front of his stage a whole background, with props, with magical books, cards, everything was there. And the shot I wanted of Paul was to be taken seriously as a magician, because he is. I'm also a member of the Magic Circle. And for those that know magic, he was amazing, absolutely fantastic, great for the career. But if you're a member of the general public, you know him going, ho ho, hey, ho ho, ha, and always playing the clown.
Yeah, he had that kind of light entertainer aspect to him as well.
He was doing
game shows
Strictly
and things
Come
like
Dancing, I think, and he had this horrible image of him. Oh, it's just awful. And I thought, that's not him. So I got this one shot, and he loved it, and he used it in fact, it's still on now X. If you look up Paul Daniels, that's one of my shots that I got there. Again, I don't use flash. I set the scene, set the lighting, so it's just like a TV studio. So they can just do it, and I'll just keep talking to them until I get that one shot. And he was playing with a card, put a bags on his nose, he was sticking his ear, and I didn't want any of that. I just wanted him, I think he's doing that and holding up a card. And and it's the same with Tom. It's seeing beyond the characters, trying to find the person within the character. So you're getting something a little bit else.
The threshold between one persona and another.
Yeah, that's it. You're trying to bring out something a little bit new. I mainly do one-man shows now, because I have control over it, and I'm not very good at learning scripts, because I'm writing the show, and it's semi-improvised, and it has kind of key points, key elements, different directions people can go, and I know it like the back of my hand. I'm much more happy with it. I know the lines I need to get to, I know the points I need to do. There's a bit of my show where I bring out tarot cards, and then I do predictions, and it's always very dramatic when we do that, because obviously I can predict the future because I wrote it. So, but when people randomly taking, for instance, I did a Dracula show at Carew Castle, and again, I'm playing all the characters. I've got just me as a voiceover, and I've got had the guy called Mel Shiner who did these beautiful introduction links, and then the audience are sat around this big table. There's about 30 members of the audience, and there's going to be Dracula, and if I pull out all my arcane cards, taking a certain amount out, but still about 30 cards, and they draw the devil, and they're about to meet Dracula. You can eke that moment out, something rotten, and you can go, oh my God, what have you got? Oh no, and stand over there. So it's, and people love it. It's theatre and magic and drama in their hands, in front of them, that they're involved with, and that's the feeling that I had when I was watching Doctor Who, when I was 7 years old. It's real, it's visceral, and I think a lot of kids, they don't all lose it, but some of them are, or maybe these adults who are kind of pushing them that way too fast. They're all
the adult world does.
The
pressures of exams,
that, and also the engagement that adults and teenagers have with younger kids now. It's less, let's go out and play, let's use our theatre of the mind, let's use our imagination. It's all gone into phones, and it's for me, in the gaming world, I don't like all these games with lots of cards and too many rules and too many components and all these kind of things. You strip all that down. What a game is about and theatre is about, it's taking that one person and take them into this whole new world that you've created for them. As soon as you say, right, stop, we've got to now go and find a rule, or stop, we've got to now find a miniature, and that's got to be you.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like miniatures, in games, because you're now looking at that and transposing yourself into this little tiny figure, rather than going in here and you opening your mind and you creating this whole world within your mind. And that's when things like role-playing games work their best, when you're all sat around the table, Victorian parlour games, with the lights low, and someone's involving you in an exciting story. That's...
So you've been a photographer for 25 years. Is this one of the aspects of why you think you've been doing it for so long? Because even though you said relatively recently, 25 years, as my children keep reminding me, is longer than you think. I mean, is that why? Is it because that's a journey in and of itself as well, in that you can build your own skill set through it, not just as technology.
This is going to go round to the things that I used to love. When I was the Tom Baker fan child, there are several things I loved. I love magic. I love sci-fi and fantasy, and I love theatre. So all those things have kind of worked together. And when I was doing all my photography, I treat it as theatre. I treat it as a show, capturing a little moment in my camera that wasn't there beforehand, something which was imaginative. That's why I used to dress him up. Some of my photographs, you see Tom as a pope. You see him as a wizard with a live owl. I bought a live owl.
I've seen that one, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a little owl called Blue, a little barn owl. We went down to Rye. I found this amazing antique store and I put all these clocks around him, and I brought in a smoke machine and a lighting. So I had blue lighting, and we went to one of the first shoots I did at Rye. We went to another antique dealer, and they had this huge parabolic mirror. So when he stood, he kind of knelt. I said, "Tom, do you mind stooping down here?" "Stoop? I never stoop. I stoop for no one." So we found him a seat, and he stood there. And then the lighting was very similar to your background there. So you're always trying to find little ways to make shoots fun, make them a little bit more exciting. And yeah, that's always been my style. That, again, it marks me out as a different type of photographer.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily, because I think that what we tend to see a lot within sort of geeky circles is extremes at either one end or the other. You've got a higher, artier approach where everything's really minimalistic and stripped right the way back, sort of Apple style, or it is sort of Campus Christmas. Everything, there's glitter and fabric everywhere, and I think people, again, maybe that is one aspect of a person, but it's neither of those two extremes.
I think the interesting thing, the comment I see quite a bit about my previous work and some of the ones I did with Tom is that AI. Because people can't believe that you put all these elements together. They go, no, that can't be real. You can't put that there and do that lighting, and it can't be all photoshopped, or it's got to be AI. But no, it is. It's all there, and that's how I like to do my shoots. Yeah, I used to underwater shoots, and I used to capture it all in camera. And I used to do long exposure shoots. So, and again, this is the way answer your original question. What's it about photography? And it's going to sound very corny. You're literally bending space and time with your camera lens. You're capturing a bit, but you can expand it. You can make time last longer. You're freezing a moment in time, but also you can trick the eye as well. That's where the magic comes in. You can do things that people go, "How's that happening?" And you're kind of creating veils that are hard to understand. There's amazing tricks you can do with cameras,
and it's one thing for you. Well, it's one thing for you to play with an idea that you have in your head, but if you can sell your subject on where you're coming from, and they can meet you part of the way there, and you can both play and be in that moment together, I would imagine that's where the real gold is. Someone like Tom Baker, who's been photographed over the last 50 years, heaven knows how many photographs of Tom Baker exist out there in the ether. You would forgive him or anyone in that position for thinking, oh God, another photo shoot. If you can make this one different, if you can make this one stand out, if you can make their eyes light up, as it sounds like you did with Paul Darrow with the cowboy stuff, then you're obviously everybody involved is going to have an easier time, and the outcome is that the imagery is all going to be that bit more sort of kinetic, connected.
Well, Tom is playful, so you've got to use that. And I had a studio in Bodiam, near Bodiam Castle, and near there was a place called Mad Hatters, which is a costume place. So we thought, okay, fantastic. Can we borrow some of these costumes? But absolutely, have as many as you want. So as soon as we said to Tom, okay, do you want to be a pope? Do you want to be a wizard? Do you want to have a Shakespearean outfit? He was like, yep, absolutely fantastic. Because again, he knows it's not going to be a whole day shoot. It's going to be an hour and a half, a lot of fun, a lot of activity, lots of changes. He's going to have all the attention, but won't be laborious. If you're going to do a shoot and then you're losing that spark behind the eye, because they're now like, oh God, when will this be over? You've lost it. You might as well just, you do quit and just do something else. So that's why it's always a challenge to set up places that are going to be fun for Tom to come into. He'd have a rough idea what's going to happen, but it's only I that had the vision of what the image was going to look like, where I was pushing towards.
Do you think that as you're a performer yourself, this also helps you relate to people like Tom Baker, like Paul Darrow, like Paul Daniels? Tell me about that side to your own life. Have you always been a performer?
No, I haven't. No, I got into theatre design and prop making because I like that environment. I'd like to do it, but I never got to do it. So after I moved my studio to Rye, I had this beautiful studio, and I decided to properly open it as my theatre. So it was an interactive adventure show, of which actually Tom has since done some voiceover work as well. So if you have a look online, you'll see the trailer to my show is Tom. And, it was, again, taking all those things from Doctor Who when I was watching it. So it's got to be scary. It's got to be interactive. You've got to have interesting, loud characters. I play a wizard called Professor Quasimodo. Nice to see you. And of course, John Swede, the pirate trader. So, and if you get kids who are suddenly putting their phones down and they're engaged for an hour and a half, that was thrilling. So it's actually me taking a lot from what I've seen Tom do, how he talks to people, and I try and use some of those little tricks that he uses in my shows to get attention, like how you, if you're trying to process something, you can go, yes, ooh, and that little noise of wonderment that he does, ooh, and I certainly use those in my shows.
It is a wonderful mix, isn't it, of the avuncular and the patrician, and yet the childlike.
I 100% channel a lot of that. I don't try and imitate him, but I'd kind of go, oh yeah, okay, that's a good way of doing it, and that's put me in fantastic stead. And it's so thrilling. I did some shows at Carew Castle with Tom as the voice, where he introduces certain scenes as well, and it's just great. I kind of go, well, I'm now technically acting with Tom, in my own little space, and introducing kids to his voice as well. So hopefully they'll kind of look at that and go, oh, who's that other person? So they'll suddenly discover Tom at this stage.
They'll almost certainly have heard it somewhere, even if they have no recollection of where or who the voice belongs to. They'll probably have heard it somewhere. I think Tom's done more voiceovers than practically anyone in Britain, with the exception maybe of Miriam Margolyes. I think is probably the only one who would top him. So performing wizardry too. You said you were a member of the Magic Circle. That's another notoriously secretive society, isn't it?
Yes, I can't tell you a thing about it, I'm afraid. No, okay. Basically, there was another magician that got me into it, or helped me get into it. A chap called Andy Nyman. Have you heard that name before?
He
wrote and produced ghost stories in the West End, and it was touring, and he did the movie of it, and he's in the producers at the moment, and he's very well known now. But he's also the writer director of a lot of Darren Brown's work. So all Darren Brown's live shows is written and directed by, apart from a couple, by Andy Nyman. And during the lockdown, I asked Andy whether he'd be interested in a project that we end up not doing. But he said, "Ollie, why don't you join the Magic Circle?" And I'm like, I'd never really thought about it. So it was COVID, so I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. So I auditioned and got in. So that was thrilling.
What's the audition like for something like that? Is it like when in the James Bond movies where Spectre all get together and everybody's like in a hooded gown and nobody's really sure who anybody is?
Well, this was over lockdown, so I wasn't. I think when you go and do it on stage at the Magic Circle in London, you have to do a 15-minute performance, and it's got to have a certain amount of effects in it. For me, because it's lockdown, I did it all over Zoom. So I was lucky because I had my studio, so I had a brilliant little set there. I had more pieces, I had time to rehearse. So I literally did all my magic over Zoom. So I had to actually, in fact, I used Tom in that audition as well. I actually asked him to record a reveal at the end. We actually didn't use it, but I actually used my photography as part of a storytelling technique as a reveal of a prediction.
And he was willing to go along.
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had tea, and I said, "Tom, do you just mind saying, is it the Two of Hearts?" So yeah, fine. Is it the Two of Hearts? Yes. I'm doing my own voice, but yes, you get the idea. It's quite weird talking as myself. I'm very much always in character when I'm doing things. I'm currently
Yeah. So, who is your main character? Because there is somebody called the Story Master. Is there not? You're something to do with gaming, aren't you? Is it tabletop gaming, or is it online gaming, or a bit of both?
I've developed a whole series of games called the Story Master's Tales, and they're interactive adventure shows. So it was based on my theatre shows. But I wanted to get them out to more people, so I designed it as a kind of it's a board game, role-playing, choose-your-own-adventure hybrid. But it also has QR codes in there as well, so it has soundscapes and narrations within it. It's a family game, which is again more important. It's got scary bits and surprising bits, and all based on folklore. Although I've just written one that I'm just about to publish, which is called Alien Rogue Robot. So it's my first science fiction one, and it's only when I was talking to Tom, sat next to K9 and a Dalek, I suddenly realised, hang on, we've got an alien, we've got a rogue and a robot right here. It's always been it's clearly been in the back of my mind. I didn't realise I was doing it. I was thinking about Red Dwarf and all those kinds of things. Exactly. Yeah, we got the alien, the robot, and Tom said, "Oh, I'm the rogue."
I don't know about you. I don't believe one needs to be a royalist or a supporter of whichever government is in at any given time to see the significance and the worth in such things as the honours and the sentiment, I suppose, behind these awards. I think it's part of our cultural history, and it's nice to recognise anyone's positive contributions and accomplishments, particularly when they've brought joy to people. And Tom Baker's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, hasn't he?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And continues to do so. I do know that they're always recording Big Finish productions. I don't know how many years they've got of him, but certainly more than they've published. So I reckon they've got a couple of years worth. So we're going to be listening to his voice for a very long time.
And as regards those sort of jokes, those comments about Tom Baker's knighthood, it's all overdue. This is the very least that they could do. The crux of the matter is that the whole of the Doctor Who fandom has only ever wanted for Tom that which he'd be happy to receive himself. And if he's happy, and he certainly seemed very happy there in these fabulous images that you've been sharing, if he was happy, then so are we.
Oh, well, he was. I can assure you, he was extremely happy on the day. Okay, so absolutely, he was joyous. And I put the images out there because I was quite surprised that the BBC didn't put anything out there or any of the major newspapers, and I felt it was only best for me to share them because none of the official sources were doing it. So there we are.
We're all very, very grateful, believe me. So what's next for you then, Oliver? What upcoming projects do you have, either in what remains of 2025 or into next year? What's exciting you?
Well, I'm currently writing some new games at the moment. I'm going to be appearing at the UK Games Expo next year. I'm doing the Fantasy Forest event as well.
In character? Or as yourself?
I'm never comfortable as myself. I've always got to be like this, or I like this indeed, and then I'm a little bit more fluid. Welcome, adventurers. So that's me as in character. In fact, actually, a small aside, I've got some puppets and characters that are actually made by Mark Caudry, who was a prop maker on the David Tennant and Griff Eccleston.
I was going to say, that's another name I recognise, but I couldn't tell you where from.
So I've got this fantastic rat puppet, and I've got this golem as well. So I've got a lot of links, and even that links into Nightmare. I'm sure you remember Nightmare on TV.
The kids' TV game show with the kind of early virtual reality helmet.
You put the helmet on, and they do Nightmare live. But Mark actually designed the dragon on that, so there's a through link for what I do.
Oh, do you go all over the country with that? Because that's appeared at my local town hall, that event. I wasn't a Nightmare kid.
That's not mine, but he was doing it. The Nightmare Live guys do it all over the place. They're currently in London doing it at the Leicester Square Theatre. So my plan next year is to take my show around an awful lot more. And I've got several new books that I'm going to adapt into shows as well. And they have soundscapes and giant dice and a lot of madness thrown in. So if you like Doctor Who, I think you'll enjoy what I do as well.
And going back to Doctor Who, going back to Tom Baker, how do you know when you're next going to be working with or for and around Tom again? Do you just literally just get a call? It's like, have you got a pirate's hat? Could you meet me
I think in fairness, in fairness, I don't think I'll be doing many more. Tom's going to be 92 next year, so he should be taking it easy now. So I certainly won't be asking him for any more shoots. After this one, I think he should enjoy his retirement.
Well, these pictures are just delightful, and
thank you.
I'm sure the occasion was too. I can't thank you enough for coming in and telling us all about it, obviously, because this was a private business, I think, despite the fact that they are very public honours for a public figure. And we haven't got a right to know any of this stuff. So I'm just really grateful that you were happy to come along and to tell us something about your experience and your very personal, it sounds like, connection with the man himself. It's very generous of you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Tom Baker's second season as the Doctor has just been released on Blu-ray, of course. The collection, season 13, now available. And our congratulations again to Tom Baker, MBE. Oliver McNeil can be found at... Where can people find you, Oliver? If people want to see more, hear more, maybe book you for something, find out about the various projects you've got going on, where can they find out more about you?
Well, probably the best place to go would be my website, which is www.storymasterstales.com. And I'll have all my shows there, and also all my books. And if you're interested in the Alien Rogue Robot, they'll be up there, or on Amazon as well. So you can get all my Story Master Tales games on there. And they're great for Christmas as well. Solo 5 players, age 7 upwards.
Fantastic stuff. We'll make sure that there's links in the video description and the show notes to the podcast for all of that. Thanks for being my guest on this edition of the show, Oliver. It's been lovely to meet you, and all the best for those further projects and Christmas and the New Year too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
And you can treat yourself or treat your other selves to a little something from a selection of merchandise over at the Fandom Podcast Network's TeePublic store. There's a link to all of that in the show notes. It all goes right back into supporting the network in its continuing mission to keep you topped up with the very best in geeky pop culture coverage, so everybody wins. What a privilege that was to hear a lot more about such a momentous day. A few days on, Tom Baker, MBE, spoke about the event himself to the Radio Times, saying how it was a real honour to receive the MBE from Lady Colgrane representing His Majesty, in the same way as it was a real honour for me to play Doctor Who for all those years. It never ceases to amaze me how fondly people remember me, and I found it hard to believe it was so long ago when I found myself back in the TARDIS last week with my beloved scarf around my neck. There's the gurgling and the rumbling, calling time on another conversation. But there's more on the way soon enough. Look out for that, wherever it was you found this. Maybe our dedicated home feed, that's type40.podbean.com. We're across all major podcatchers, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Apple, all those places, and lots more. See us as well as hear us on our YouTube and Rumble channels with enhanced video editions of every show. And there's exclusive extra videos and live streams too. Not forgetting our mothership, the Fandom Podcast Network's master feed. Please consider a trip sideways in time there for more quality, practically daily shows from the FPN. Make contact through our social medias. Have your say on all of this and that. Instagram and X at Type40 Doctor Who. Email us, type40doctorwho@outlook.com. And there's still the Type40 Facebook group too. Of course there is. Thousands of other Doctor Who fans from all over the world, maybe a few other worlds too. Rants and raves, discussions and debates, issues of the moment or the ongoing storms. It's all on the wall there at the Type40 Facebook group. Get stuck in with fellow fans and companions. I think I've come to terms with the reality that I'll likely never have any letters of that kind after my name anytime soon. What on earth would they be? It's probably best not mentioned, really. I'll leave you to wonder on not just that, but who'll be our guest next time here on Type 40, where we always have the time if you have the space. Congratulations again, Tom.